Hey guys, this is just a quick video to walk you through the short story analysis essay instructions. So I try to give you a lot of stuff on this document, especially since this is an online class. I want to give you as much as you can to work with, but not overwhelm you, which I find is a difficult balance to strike. So just this is a long document. You should look over it and know what's here. Big thing. So first, for this essay, your job is to explore how a short story creates meaning using words. So like how the author uses abstract words, concrete words to make you imagine stuff and have that stuff that you imagine be meaningful. Okay. So we're going to be asking analytical questions, which are how and why questions. So we're not just looking at what happens in the story. We're looking at how the interactions between the characters change the character development, or why the author would choose to describe, the landscape in a certain way. Like, why would they choose these words to look at the landscape or to describe the landscape? So there's some sample analytical questions up here for you to get you kind of started thinking in that direction. And so you were going to choose one short story from this unit. So one short story that we have read in this class to write about. If you want to write about a different story, you need to have a discussion with me first. Best idea here would just be to choose one from this class, because you already are having to read it and having to write a discussion post and all that about it. So choose one of the stories from this class, and you are going to write an 800 to 1,000 word essay that talks about how the story works. Again, you're looking at how literary elements can work together to create meaning. Okay, you're going to use evidence from the text to support your observations using direct quotes again. So there need to be direct quotes in there. You're going to format your essay in MLA with in-text citations and a works cited page this time, because we do have a research requirement for this one. Now, it is not my choice to make you include research on this one. It is just part of the, Comp 2 basic requirement. So we do have to include research for short story and for drama. And we're going to use at least 3 scholarly sources from this one. So this short story essay needs to include 3 sources, and those 3 sources should absolutely come from the library databases. They should not be from random Google search or WebMD or whatever. They need to come from the library databases, and you'll have other videos to watch and little tutorials to do about using the library databases for this course. So just hold tight on that. There will be more about that. But yeah, so use the library databases. Don't just Google it. In order to get credit for your sources here, they need to be scholarly. Like, they need to be correct. And my expectation is, if you are in Comp 2, is that you took Comp 1 and that you understand what scholarly sources are, and that you are at least familiar with how to use like library databases and stuff. There is stuff in this unit to catch you up, and I'm happy to answer questions, but your sources do need to be scholarly. And if you find something you're not sure, whatever, let me know. I'm happy to answer questions. It's better to ask up front than it is to just throw it in there and then lose points for it. So your sources do not need to be literary criticism. So literary criticism would be, so say you're writing your essay about Sonny's Blues. If you look for Sonny's Blues on the library databases in a literature, like in Gale literature or something, you will find that there are essays about Sonny's Blues. So that's what literary criticism is. It's essentially like essays or articles about a work of literature. Okay, you can do that if you want to. So you can look up essays about Sonny's Blues as a short story. Totally fine. But in order to make this a little bit more user-friendly, I also encourage you to apply some theme from the short story you've chosen to write about and do research about that. So maybe you don't want to look up articles about Sonny's Blues, but you're going to write about Sonny's Blues. You could look up stuff about the historical background of the story setting. So you could look up stuff about Harlem in 1957 for Sonny's Blues. You could also look into stuff about the author's life. Or if there's some kind of cultural context that's interesting. So I'm going to talk about Sonny's Blues just because that's easy one. James Baldwin was really cool. So if you like Sonny's Blues and you thought the story was interesting, James Baldwin is cool. Look up stuff about his life. Try to see maybe how Sonny's Blues fits into the broader context of his life or the broader context of his work, like all of the different stuff that he's written. That would be an option. You can also pick a major theme from the story that you read. So addiction is a big one in Sonny's Blues. So you could look up scholarly sources about addiction. And in Sonny's Blues, there's also this music. So maybe like how music can provide a healthy coping mechanism as opposed to addiction, that kind of thing. So you could look at some major theme in the story. If you're doing the thing in the forest, there's all sorts of trauma stuff you could look up. So you could also, look for research on the theme itself, not just the short story. Psychological or social issues that connect to the story. Or anything that like resonates with your interests. So like maybe you're, I had someone last semester who was going to psychology, and their drama essay like essentially was attempting to diagnose one of the main characters in the play as a malignant narcissist. And I had another student who was, excuse me, who was, I forget. Never mind. Sorry. I'm not going to restart my video though. We're 7 minutes in. I'm not doing it. So it could be just about anything that you include research for. It just needs to be relevant to the story somehow, either historically or biographically for the author, or something that's going on in the story. If you're not sure what to do, I'm happy to brainstorm with this with you. It's a lot of fun for me. You're going to use this research that you do and integrate it into your analysis. That's just a little reminder about that you have to use the library databases, and there will be other videos and stuff for that. So you're reading one of the short stories from this unit, you're picking a big theme from this short story that you want to explore, and you're doing some research about it, essentially. Okay. Here we have, then there's also this structure thing that'll give you example of what needs to be in your introduction, and like with an example thesis and all of that. So make sure, and I do like the rubric that I use to grade is very closely reflecting this structure. So just make sure that you understand how your structure needs to operate. Again, it's not going to just be, it's very hard to write this top down, like, I'm going to write every sentence of this essay in order. A lot of times it's better to get all your ideas out onto a page, like free write style, kind of get some observations going and then go back and organize it later. But hopefully this structure section will help you, like check over it before you turn it in, just to make sure that you have everything that you need. Okay. So there's that. There's also a section about thesis guidance with a template of like how to put one together. I thought that would be helpful. I asked AI about this one actually, and it's pretty decent. So thesis statements are pretty hard to write, especially when you're talking about a short story and research, and oh God. So if you're not sure, just use this template. It's there to help you. If it sounds funky, it's okay. Thesis sentences are naturally they're kind of clunky sometimes, and it is what it is. So just try your best, and if you need some help with it, I'm happy to try and smooth it out with you, but there are examples there. Also got you some sentence stems for integrating research, so that sometimes the hard thing with research is like figuring out how to like include it in your paragraph without it sounding dumb or just being dropped in. So there are different sentences that you can use to work on that. I found that to be helpful, and we have a weird white space. Then again, some characteristics of a great short story analysis is you have a big theme. You're not just summarizing it, you're analyzing it. You're talking about how the literary elements work together to create that meaning. You're using evidence from the story, like you're using direct quotes from the story. You're integrating relevant scholarly research. And your essay is organized by ideas with like analytical topic sentences, not just like a walkthrough of the plot. So you're not just like, or you don't necessarily have to organize your essay in order of the story. Like you don't have to go in the beginning and then in the middle and then in the end. Your points, your essay should be organized by how your points work together, not necessarily like what happens in the story. And that may also help you stick more to analysis instead of summary. So if it makes sense for the essay that you're writing, totally fine for it to be in the same order as the story, but it doesn't have to be, and don't necessarily default to that right off the bat. You need to include a clear thesis statement. You should use your own voice. It should not sound like AI. You're not summarizing or paraphrasing most of the essay. Like you may need to paraphrase a little bit, but you do not need to summarize. Well, like assume the reader has, or assume the person reading your essay has also read the short story. So you don't have to like fill everybody in on everything that happened. Just go straight into your analysis. And again, try to make thoughtful connections between the story and some kind of larger ideas or issues. And you've got a revision checklist here for all sorts of stuff. So use this as best you can. Just know that it's there for you. And the idea is that if you read these instructions thoroughly, ask questions if you have them, and you like do the structure like it says, and you write your thesis like it says, and you use the sentence stems, and you make sure you go through the revision checklist, and your essay has all of that, that like you have hit all the rubric points and you can get an A. So I hope it goes well for everybody. Let me know if you have questions. I am happy to help you brainstorm or figure out how to attack this one.